Welcome, everybody, to the Fastr podcast series. I'm your host today, Ryan Breen. I'm the CTO of Fastr. I'm incredibly excited to be joined today by, I feel terrible saying this because some of our other customers are going to hear this, but my favorite customer, Chip Cunningham of Uncharted. So, Chip,
Yes.
welcome to the show. Excited to have you in front of our global audience of millions of viewers. Um, Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about you. Tell us about Uncharted.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's fun. This is going to be a good time, no doubt.
Looking forward to it, man. We got 2 hours to
Thanks, Chris.
go.
Only?
Only
Geez,
2 hours.
okay. I'll try and be brief then. Uh, yeah. What was the question?
Yeah, tell us about Uncharted. Tell us about
Uncharted.
and tell us about you. Tell us about how you got
Yeah.
started, what the business is, and what you guys do.
Yeah. Yeah. I got started as a bush pilot and safari guide in East Africa. And then that kind of led to building a camp that had burned down in Hemingway's Green Hills of Africa, that overlook Mount Kilimanjaro. It's literally the place where everybody, thinks of Africa in their imagination. One from the movie Out of Africa, but just all the pictures you see with the flat top acacia, Kilimanjaro in the background, elephants and giraffe, right out our door. I mean, sometimes in our door. Yeah, and we built the lodge there, and I flew people in and out of camp. My wife, Sandy, she really ran the show, the lodge part of it. She went to hospitality school in Switzerland, and she was born and raised in Southern Africa, part in South Africa and the other part in Zimbabwe. So, yeah, then one thing led to another, after doing that for a number of years and living out in the middle of nowhere, we had to come back to the States for family reasons. And so we did, but we wanted to stay in the safari business because we knew it, loved it. We were all excited about that because there were just so many things. It was a very pivotal time in the safari industry in the early, in the late 90s. By the time we got back to the States, it was going for more, lodges and, a bit mass market, actually, a lot of ways. And the concept of we were at, it was on Maasai land. We hired about 40 Maasai. It was their land, 250,000 acres that they own communally, kind of like um, as they do there, and it was amazing. We all worked together. They were our landlords. It was a very symbiotic relationship, and it was beautiful. We had to train them everything you know from it all, and it wasn't really not what they really loved to do, but they could make it was all male staff at first. We eventually brought in a female, but yeah, it was just awesome because they could live on their land. It was about protecting the animal and bringing in guests. It brought a whole new aspect to their lives in their communal land that they could not have to go to Nairobi or elsewhere to make an income. They could just be Maasai and protect the animals and look after the guests. And it was the most amazing thing ever.
So
And that's
that's
still what we're still doing that today,
and
but
that's
on
the
this
core.
side.
That's the core of it is that vision of doing something that works with the land as it is, the people as they are,
Yeah.
and bringing people from around the world to participate in that, to see it, to view it, not to say we're going to pull up a cruise ship right off the coast, or I'm going to drop in, like we're going to set up a five-star hotel and we're going to bring in 500 people a week to stay there.
Yeah.
That's something
Yeah.
that's sort of
That was it. Even since those days, and it's more and more pressure on it now because there are a lot of bigger groups, foreign groups, trying to come into all over Africa and do that. Come in and funny you should say cruise ships because yeah, one of them is owner of a cruise ship and they're getting in the adventure travel and they're trying to op they're trying to take the wild and make it like a cruise ship experience so they can just run numbers through. So that's always been I guess our why, trying to hold that line, trying to keep it real, authentic, and yeah, and not wreck the culture and the land just to extract the profit, which is what they're doing. A
that's
bit like colonialism in that way. We're focused on the modern safari. It's about conservation, working with the people, them having ownership in it, them providing them just being them. They're magical human beings all over the world. We just started in Africa with that, but that same model has been able to be exported elsewhere,
Yep.
which
Yeah, I
what
mean, you
we've
have
been doing.
trips
Yeah.
around the world. Like as the folks who are involved in your digital offerings and your digital experiences,
Yeah.
you got trips on every continent, including
Yeah.
Antarctica.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just amazing. the more that society gets automated, all the creature comforts, all the AI, and just the speed of the pace here in the US and Europe, it's people crave that. I mean, we need it as humans. We saw that firsthand for many years in Africa. People would come from London, New York, Berlin, wherever. Um, yeah, and they were all tight wound. They had a hard time seeing, smelling. Their senses are just kind of numbed from living in a fast-paced world with all the advertising and just gets bombarded with all that. It's not till they get back to Africa, till they get to Africa, that they just kind of sink into being human. And yeah, you see them change in a couple days. It was across the board. They come in like masters of the universe in their minds, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, Africa always wins. It lets you know where you fit into the big picture of life on
You
this
give
planet.
so you give people that authentic experience, and you give people an experience that's symbiotic with the land and with the people. But talk to me some about how you find that jackwagon in New York who needs that transformative experience to come be humbled, to feel like, oh, I'm actually going to do this because I'm going to be a part of something. Because I doubt
Yeah,
that person who's signing up for that tour, they're not just going to a website and booking a package where it's, from Ritz-Carlton. Like, they're building a tour that's more custom and it's more tailored to what they're trying to do. Talk to me some about how your
yeah,
business works. How do you find people, and how do you make sure that you're putting them on the right destination travel for them?
yeah. It's been an amazing thing. People. A lot of times they'll talk to their friends. A friend will come back from Africa, and then they'll get turned on like that. We've kind of seen it all from the very beginning. We were first back in the States in the late 90s. We'd get together. People would host an evening in their house, invite their friends for an African night, and we'd either put on the dog and pony show with cool pictures of Africa. It's amazing looking back how it was with the carousel slides, click, click.
Yeah.
Bulbs would always burn out. The
Yeah.
slide would always get stuck. Um, yeah, and that's how we used to do it back then. Now, of course, it's changed. It's the opposite. It's all these shorts and reels and video, which we're getting more and more into now. To keep filling. We yeah, for a time we were the travel division of Outside Magazine, so we could take our product to a much broader audience, that kind of demographic that likes that kind of thing. And Outside was the brand in the US, the biggest in the world. So that was fun. But the reality is it's kind of travel, since a lot of the camps are only 12 beds, like six different tents or 10, 20 people. They're small. So you got, 20 people on 250,000 acres, sometimes or larger. So you really out there by yourself. You really feel like it's your place. You're not fighting crowds. And yeah, people have been turned on by that. And the biggest flow of our business is referrals, which we, work hard at that, just getting people to keep the conversation alive. And yeah, people get referred from our past travelers, and they kind of come in as family, and that's it's a great thing about, travel with Uncharted too. We know these people. We were all starting in the business a long time ago at this very transitional time, kind of post hunting. And yeah, so they show up at camps and they're like old family friends visiting really fascinating people with an amazing lifestyle that have created these extremely entrepreneurial businesses literally in the middle of nowhere, and taking guests in to show them their corner of the world. But yeah, I think it's mainly word of mouth. So we do a lot of inbound marketing, as well as outbound marketing.
Yeah, that's a really interesting, difference between, we have a lot of customers who, they're doing a lot of outbound, and maybe they're at a very large scale. It's an e-commerce retailer. But most of the time we'll be working with folks who, they're not selling something that's $2. They're selling something that, we like to use the phrase a considered purchase. They're going to purchase something that, they want to know its story. They want to know about its ecological impact. They want to know, that it's sustainable, that other people like them also like it. They want to really
Yeah.
feel like they aren't just clicking a box in a grid and getting some little machine manufactured thing. And so even though you would look at it on the outside and you'd say, maybe Uncharted, like that's kind of a different approach to digital marketing because they're
Yeah,
talking word of mouth. They're talking working
yeah,
directly person to person to person.
yeah,
Yours are still considered purchases. Yours may be the most considered purchases of any of our customers because,
yeah,
somebody's thinking, where do I want to go for that 2 weeks? And you aren't one of the things that I love about your site has the most gripping, evocative storytelling visuals. But what's up there, even when you look at the expeditions, when you're looking at the experiences somebody may take, it's not click a button and add exactly this one to the cart. Even at your product pages, those are just the start of that conversation. It's the start of here's
right.
the first step on that considered purchase. Here's the thing you might think of, talk to us because we probably know a way to make that exactly right for you.
You're 100% right. Yeah, that's how it starts. I mean, it starts with their dream. You probably have your dream of Africa from shows you watched or just books you read as a kid. Who knows where? Going to the zoo with your parents when you're a kid or something. But you have these dreams of Africa and a safari. It's kind of the ultimate dream on this planet. Where you can you know see the big elephants and the giraffes and the lions and the leopard. I mean, it's just fascinating. And you take that and scale, different places around the world. It's the most magical thing, that somebody can experience. We 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 try and do, and thank you for your comments on our site. With Fastr, our goal is to make our site the most beautiful site and most compelling on the entire internet. And with your technology, you're allowing us to do that, step by step, just trying to make that experience as magical before or while people are figuring out where they want to go. Yeah, it's not click. That's always been our main thing. In the early days, we were always, like I was saying, going head to head with the mass market companies that were running people around in minibuses and just destroying the land because there was, 400 or 500 people in one lodge in a national park. And we were always more about getting further out, away from the crowds, getting immersed in nature. It's a phenomenal experience like that. The challenge, those mass market companies, they try and make it a commodity. They have set trips, set departures, click here, you're on the bus or whatever. And we were always the opposite. We wanted to do hyper personalized, customized trips for each, because everybody has their own dream. You don't get a dream out of a menu of 20 different trips, all with these goofy names. You got to create it with something. That's what we do. Makes our business very difficult, and we need technology because when we started off, for example, there were 5 or 6 camps in Africa that we worked with. I mean, in Kenya that we worked with. 5 or 6. Now there's 40 or 50 in Kenya alone, not to mention Southern Africa exploded in Botswana. There's thousands of camps. It's just, you really have to know this business. So yeah, with all our years of experience paired with, great technology to bring it to life, um, yeah, we can do that. We want to make that experience as exciting before they travel and learn about it and get turned on to really try and make that match for them. And then boom. So when they hit the ground in Africa, they know something, they're prepared, they get more out of the experience. And then at the back end, use the technology to introduce them to the next place. And you had
Yeah.
a great time in Tanzania during the migration. Well, you're going to love Galapagos. I mean,
Yeah.
and then Antarctica. And that's, yeah,
And that's how you build that lifelong relationship that in 2 years, in 3 years, in 10 years, when
yeah,
they're planning that trip with their kids, they're working with you because you worked with them to build something that's so authentic to their lives. It's interesting. Your background is fascinating. You are the only customer I'm ever going to talk to, probably, who's like, yeah, first job was a bush pilot. Okay, that's how we started the business. It's like every other podcast I host, I'm probably not going to hear that awesome start to your career, and it's a really exciting journey. And what you've built is very cool, making these connections to folks. And you've mentioned a lot of the technology transformations that you've seen throughout the years. um, I view very much this moment that we're living in right now as being the most epochal. Am I pronouncing that right? Epochal, something like that. Somebody's going
Apo
to bother me.
apocalyptic?
Apocalyptic. This is the biggest moment in human history. I'm talking to you, of course, about the announcement that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged. I'm sure you've heard news. Maybe I'm breaking this to you.
No, yes, that's news to me. Thank
Breaking
you, though.
news. You heard it here first on, yeah, I wrote this. Nobody else has done this before. But no, AI, you have to, I mean, one of the things that I think is fascinating about, you would look at your background, you'd look at the focus of the business, and you'd say, oh, this is very person to person. How do you scale this? This is like super old school business. And yet,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have not talked to a single customer who is as forward thinking, forward looking as you are on your AI adoption. So I wanted to hear a little bit from you of how you have gotten inspired by how you've seen this evolution of different AI tools. What I certainly know from my perspective as a software engineer, someone who runs product teams, that's a lot of what the conversation is these days. Like, how are you going to make products better? And how are you going to slap some AI on it?
Yeah.
But talk to me some about how AI has impacted Uncharted as a business and you in particular, because you're very thoughtful, forward looking on your adoption.
Yeah, I think it just happened out of necessity. I mean, I literally got the first laptop. I think that was made the Toshiba T1000 or 1200 or
I think
something.
that was a Terminator, man. The T1000, I think was one of the Terminators.
Yeah, no, it was a T1000, the Toshiba little thing, black and white screen. You had a 3.5-inch disc, and it was, and didn't even really have to use for it. But I guess I evidently like gadgets, and which probably led me to flying in some ways. Now that I think about it, I mean, all the gadgets. The plane is the ultimate
Yeah,
gadget.
man,
I
it's
mean, the ultimate
a cockpit.
time.
That's the dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the fun, the dials and this and that and all the systems. And just as I was starting, learning to fly, that was kind of pre-GPS, and that started coming on. And when you're flying in Africa and and it's challenging, there's no air traffic control almost. The weather systems then weren't good. I mean, it was all, a lot of flying by the seat of your pants. So when GPS came out, it's like, wow, I could really use that because it's hard looking at the map flying and you're trying to find a little
Yeah,
green area strip
yeah,
and nowhere, and there's nothing but North Sudan in front of Sudan in front of you. Like,
yeah.
shoot, I hope I can land somewhere, can find a strip. So it was out of necessity that it wanted to learn GPS, and then GPS turned into that, and then the moving maps, and then the radios, and my thinking always from them, yeah, you learn a lot in the bush. You want the latest technology. It'll help keep you alive. It keeps you forward. It makes it easier to keep up as it keeps evolving. Um, and I always felt that if I got behind, it'd be harder to catch up. I'd be missing out on something. So I've always tried to, even at times where there wasn't a lot of money, to always have the latest technology, not overspending, but just what everybody was using to keep up. And AI is that now. It's like I want to use it every way, shape that I can because it's hugely beneficial to us. And I know we have that in common, and that's made our partnership. I consider you our CTO. I mean, you're a whole tech thing, and that's the literally the best thing that ever happened to us. Yeah, I mean, really, just the software you created is what does it at all, and then the advice along the way and what we can and can't do. It's for a small company like us, though global and kind of, you know, think of ourselves in a small giant in ways. It's extremely important because our competitors are spending, you know, millions on their technology, and I mean, it's shocking, how heavy they invest, in their stuff. And so we have to keep up with them. We're the smaller authentic company, not the big monster that throws a whole bunch of back-end developers, front-end developers, and just have this endless black hole investing in technology. We've been able to avoid that with
I like
Fastr,
that.
thank God.
I like that notion of a small giant, and I do think there's something really there's this leverage that you get with what
Mhm.
AI is bringing to everything digital. And
Mhm.
it lets those of us, because I mean, we're not giant, not as big
Yeah.
as we should be. We're on our way.
Yeah.
But you have this great leverage now with AI. that is net new, I think, in human history. And so, yeah, you're telling a
Yeah.
story about a very person to person business, which you think about that historically, it's like, it's really hard to scale that many conversations, but also be able to have conversations with 50 people and work to put together really authentic packages for them. And
Mhm.
you being able to
Yeah.
sit on top of AI and sift through those 40 different lodges in Kenya. And maybe every year some of them
Yeah.
are launching, some of them are closing, maybe some places are
Mhm.
in the midst of renovations. Stuff's changing out from under you all the time. There are people who are throwing millions of dollars at technology to juggle that. You're
Yeah.
managing it with conversations. AI can wildly accelerate, and that's such a really cool thing because it means you can stay nimble, you could stay
Mhm.
focused on being that exact right
Yeah.
trip to bring those 5 people to this exact set of lodges that are going to give them the best possible experience without having
Yeah.
feeling, oh, we got to go to
Mhm.
global scale to where we can invest millions of dollars in the technology. That's an empowerment with AI that I don't hear people talk about enough.
Yeah, you're spot on with that one. I mean, it democratizes the smaller companies massively. I mean, on all fronts. On the tech platform, I've seen it a lot with, some of our greatest and longest partners. Some have had to invest heavily in technology, the front and back of doing it guess I call it the pre-Fastr days, when they had to get a front end developer to create what the back end developer was doing and all that. It was crazy. We would start off that way. We went through way too much money too quick. Luckily, we pulled the trigger on it early and eventually, found Fastr. Um, and that was amazing because those companies that have to invest so heavily and nonstop, it leads to the same thing in the travel industry. They're going to hit bad times. We've been through them all from 9/11 and the different economic crashes, and then the ultimate was COVID when the whole world shut down. Wish I would have been available then because travel got super complicated then. Um, but those companies get so invested in relying on their technology, and it spins out of control, and it changes. All of a sudden, they got millions in debt, building the software that really isn't that changeable.
Yeah.
Um, and then they have to go to outside investors, to cover it. They get the outside investors, they're wanting to exit and get their money back, and all of a sudden it's a different thing. And that's fine for most businesses, I guess. That's the game. For us, that involves nature and people and all that. We can't sell out. We don't want to sell out because a lot of our competitors that we're against, it's only numbers. It's being run by people out of the country in Europe or in Silicon Valley or something. These big hedge fund people that have, you know, they've got hundreds and hundreds of companies. That doesn't save the wildlife. And that's what we're about, expanding the wilderness and making these areas bigger, through tourism, financing them, low, high-end tourism, kind of like the Botswana model that evolved that. The whole country did that. And yeah, you just can't run masses of people through the wilderness. It'll destroy it. And once it's destroyed, it's gone. So that's kind of how Fastr helps us compete against the big ones because our website is better, we'll
I
continue to
don't
be better and bigger
There's a
with,
reason. I mean, we show your website to billion-dollar brands. It's one of the
yeah,
first that we show, and we don't we don't like hedge. We don't apologize. We aren't like, oh, well,
yeah,
here's why we're showing you a Safari
yeah,
business. We show
yeah,
it to them, and they're like, those are some of the coolest visuals I've ever seen. Like that is evocative. That tells me a story
yeah,
and evergreen content. I think that's a really important thing, particularly in
yeah.
this day and age where everybody's
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to get in front of the AI algorithm. I don't know how
Yeah.
SEO is working. Nobody does. Google
Yeah,
broke SEO. Now
yeah,
everybody's trying to figure out how to get in front of the LLMs. The only
yeah,
way to do that
mhm,
is to have really good, authentic content where you're telling your story. And you guys are doing that every week with new content that you're rolling out that is like, I want to go there. That's gorgeous. I
yeah,
learned something there. And that's a
yeah,
level of scale
mhm.
that typically it's like, oh, we have an editorial team of 50 people and we have $5 million of technology that powers it.
Yeah,
You guys do it with a scrappy team,
yeah,
great use of AI and
yeah.
a bit of our platform.
That's, well, That's how it got started. And how we got started with you was the magazine. We
Yeah.
wanted to do the whole magazine, but I mean, the whole website, our whole platform. But the first goal we were trying to achieve is an online magazine, multimedia magazine, because after our 7 years at Outside, we saw print magazines take a dive, and there's
Yeah.
no recovering from that. And we didn't want to be in that, but you know, we wanted a digital experience that showed videos. We just can't do it with words on ours. So our magazine is multimedia. There's audio, there's video, and literally Connor, our creative director, he and I've been working together for a long time, and he loves. We got the greatest partnership with you guys, with him using your technology. But we first created, just kind of were dreaming it up post COVID when the world was still shut down, and we created these beautiful um, prototypes in XD. And then XD, then as we wanted to get closer to getting to put him on the web, then it went to Figma. And then we met you when you were ZMag, and you were taking Figma, you know, creating your Fastr platform that looks like that, works like that. So it's an easy transition, for Connor to move to that, move our stuff over, boom, designs literally, and I test them every week, let's do this, let's do that, like that, everything. We want it to be different and unique and cutting edge. And every single design that we've come up with to this date, and it's been 3 years worth of it, Faster has been able to pull off with, boom, push the button, it goes up on the internet live. That's transformation. We've been wanting to do this forever. It's always cost prohibitive to change the design. You get stuck in templates, then you can't change them for God knows,
Yeah.
decades. It's a big thing, We're changing stuff all the time, probably driving you all a little bit batty, but you keep up. You always like have the answer. And then, we think about AI, how we can do this next with AI, different things like all of our country pages or our outpost pages. And it's been, yeah, the single most revolutionary thing for our company is our partnership with Faster, and now we're putting that together with our marketing partners, to get it out there to the world in a bigger way, so people can see this beautiful content we've created, and through that, the world.
And you have other channels that you're pursuing right now. Like literally, you're on this podcast on one channel. 30 minutes from now, you're gonna be laying down another podcast to go out on another channel. Like you guys are, you're working to
Yeah,
get the story out, get more of those, first time. Oh, that's the kind of trip I'd like to take. Those first time folks are going to be hearing about you through more of that outbound, pairing
yeah,
that up with a
yeah.
really polished and
Mhm,
always evolving
mhm.
digital presence that we're happy to help you guys out with. So, talk to us about Dream Posts because I know that's the next thing that you're working on. What's your vision with Dream Posts, and what's your vision for the next year, 2 years in future for Uncharted's digital offering?
Yeah, Dream Posts is our ultimate goal, and it has been for a long time, just the thought of having a place where our clients can log into a site, as it is now, like a lot, it's back and forth with emails, and it gets complicated. Our trips, sometimes there'll be files that thick, all the flights, all the changes, all this, all the iterations and all that, and back and forth with itineraries and PDFs and stuff. And there's a couple other technologies that allowed us to speed that up a bit, but still, just a lot of back and forth with the Dream Post. Like I mentioned before, we our tagline's been, if you can dream it, we can make it happen. And the Dream Post is that, but more than just about the trip. When people eventually log in, from our reading our content, the flow will be, hopefully hear about us on the social media posts or some of our other efforts in marketing. Go to our website, get interested in stuff. Um, the articles is the inspiration. We want to rely on it, as well as looking at different trips. And then when they get to that point that they're interested in booking and logging into us, it's our Dream Post. It's where the client you know, can see, can kind of start building building the site. Actually, we'll be building it for them, but they can see it there. Then we can make changes all in one place instead of back and forth, back and forth. We can do it all live with Fastr and designing their itineraries and beautiful videos and graphics and being able to create it like that. Um, yeah, it's, their profiles, where they've been in the past, which is a big indicator what people like, their
Yeah.
last, where they traveled last year and where do they want to go in the future. Boom, you slot AI into that, to help it go through our side, pick out the right properties match, because we know a lot about people. The more they tell us about themselves, the better trip they're going to have. It's nothing confidential, but it's their weight, their drinking preferences, what they've done in the past, you know, what their dream is. And then you got all the factors of their family and other people they're traveling with. And the dream post is going to be that central client portal to keep the documents organized, because there's visas involved. There's, different forms that are just required now for traveling around the world. It's gotten a lot complicated, really
Yeah.
complicated since COVID.
Yeah. And I
Um,
mean, you got people traveling through 7 countries. Like that's
yeah,
like,
continents. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we're about 30 something countries, and it's a complex world out there. The rules are changing all the time. And yeah, that'll allow us to keep up with it.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's a really interesting aspect of Dream Posts or of your products in
mhm.
general, that
Yeah,
every single traveler with you is going to be taking a different trip, not just like at a different point in time, but
yeah,
everybody's going to
yeah,
have a different itinerary. And my guess is because it's such a human to human, someone
mhm,
on your side working together with that customer to
yeah,
build that right trip, it's
mhm,
very rarely the first itinerary that you would sit down and be like, how about this one? That's exactly the trip they're going to need to take. And so
yeah,
it's an iterative process inherently. And
mhm,
so you need to be able to show folks and then track across all those documents and visas and things like that. Well, here's the one that we
yeah,
planned out. Here was our starting point.
yeah,
And
yeah,
from there, you decided like this
uh,
other location would work better. And so you're really building these really
mhm,
complex products on the fly
yeah,
for your travelers. And then at the end of the day, that traveler is not the only audience. You also
mhm.
then need to hand that information off to, the chip of 30 years ago, bush pilot who's going to pick
Yeah,
them up and fly them
yeah,
somewhere, and the
yeah,
lodge that needs to know
yeah,
these people are showing up and they like
mhm,
red wine.
yeah,
Really complicated, supply chain that you're
yeah,
and really complicated
mhm,
real-time kind of product creation. And so as much as you'd say like, oh, that's a one-to-one person-to-person
mhm,
business, like sure, but a ton of technology, decision making, and on-the-fly product creation that you guys are juggling. It's really complex to give people a really crisp experience there.
yeah. You have a phenomenal grasp of our business, I guess, after these
Well,
years of working
I would
together.
say,
But that's
yeah,
no,
you're
it's outrageously complex, and it's it's not very few people are sitting in the office, talking to pilots and guides. I mean, we do have our bases of operation in each country that kind of tie it all together, but still everybody's out and about. We're in the most remote places on planet and things are changing all the time. So being able to leverage those technologies, every trip needs to be custom. People think they could buy a trip, boom, you're with other people, it's based on availability. The season's changing all the time. Where are the animals, in any one month? When did the management change on this? It was a great lodge when their friends went 2 years ago. Now it's, another company has it. They've changed everything. They're kind of still figuring out the way. There's a lot of last minute changes. It's a black magic in a lot of ways. I mean, our team, headed up by Sandy, she's a savant at it. She has it. She grew up with it. Our daughter now, luckily, she's joined the company. She's 24, and she's grown up in all the safari guides and all the people from around the world. She grew up with them in our household, coming and going to their camps, and so she gets it. But to be able to scale that past just what Sandy said and what Daisy now owns, so we can, you know, help out more people do that. But yeah, technology is the only way. There's just so many options now, but we have to keep that that element of the human and human, because that's where the rubber meets the road. That's what this whole process is about. We don't want to do it all manually. In
Yeah.
years past, or in the early days, we'd have offices in each country, like in Kenya or Tanzania, still a lot of ways, but we'd rely on them for a lot of the hard work, the grunt work, the making all the things, because they're on a different pay scale than US. But yeah, now they can speed up what they do. We can all tap into the same systems and expedite it without losing the human to human. Because
Without
people,
having to be
yeah,
some
yeah,
giant just rid running quarter by
yeah,
quarter and what are the
yeah,
reports and
right,
we got to pay back this $5 million investment to run all this technology. It's a really
exactly.
interesting and very, yeah, I think forward looking because I think there's a
Mhm.
lot of opportunity for businesses now to start
Yeah,
punching above our weight and
yeah,
say, you can stay true to your roots without feeling
yeah,
like you need to sell out because we do
right,
have this leverage. We have better technology today
yeah,
than we've had in the past. And at the same time, I love to say this about AI, it's
mhm.
never going to be worse than it is today. So
Yeah,
it's getting better every single moment. It's you've
yeah,
got this leverage, and it's like,
mhm,
man, you can run the business that you want to run, still
yeah,
bring more people because you've got a wider spread of different countries, different bases
yeah,
that are opening it up in every
mhm,
country. So you have a broader base that you could send people to, and you could send more people while still keeping them as authentic trips. 5 years ago, you couldn't have done that without taking $5 million of investment to scale up some BM
100%.
technology
Yeah,
platform. So love the way
mhm,
that you're using technology as much as we tend to think of, well, there's the person to person and there's the bringing people to remote parts of the world. That is a thing from the 1800s that sounds fascinating. And then on the other side, there's AI and all this newfangled technology.
yeah,
And what your lived experience is, what you guys are doing every day, is showing that no, that wild futuristic AI powered
mhm,
platform can make that bring people to the right experiences in the right places, can make that the
yeah.
best it's ever been. And that's really cool. Like that is really cool and not something that most people would
Yeah.
think. They think, no, these are two different spheres. You make them the same
Yeah.
world every single day.
Yeah, yeah, it's unbelievably cool. To me, it's the coolest thing that exists because, yeah, whether it's Airbnb or but great technologies, all of them. I do like technologies, but that's one part of life, that's it's about nature and keeping that real. And then the more, smartly and economically we can produce these trips, without a whole lot of manual labor, but using that human creativity, leveraging that, then there's more time to spend on conservation, to turn people on to that, to have these human interactions, like they're going to be having in Africa. So it's, yeah, I mean, what business in the world do you get to deal with the most fascinating places, literally, with incredibly interesting people, the cultures and everything about that, and the lifestyle and the music and the food. I mean, it's everything. It's our existence on this planet, and it's an amazing planet that people just don't realize. You know, one of the gals working for us is, she's in where is she? She's in Bali, I think. And my other daughter's in Sri Lanka. It's another world,
Yeah.
an absolute another world, and you're there in one day's flight, maybe a little more, but it's certainly worth it. And maybe 1,000, 1,500 bucks for the flight. Boom. It's incredible. It's a very amazing time in our planet. And everybody realizes now they have over time, like 9/11 was the first time, remember, then to financial crashes and then COVID. When people, get that scared that they might not ever get to wherever they want to go in this planet to see when the world shuts down, then they start like paying attention. It's like, shoot, this is an amazing planet. I want to see it. Get me out there now, and I want to do it well. I mean, there's people that have done well, and they want to do it in the best way possible and in the most authentic way. And that's the place we try and live in.
That's
And
Uncharted. That's the
it's
business.
uncharted.
That's what
Yeah.
you guys do. Hey, one of these days, I'm going
Yeah.
to take you up on that offer. You said you're going to give me whatever ultra luxe trip.
Oh, you're good.
The let's talk about a package to Antarctica, Patagonia, Antarctica. That
Yeah.
one's really, really cool to me. But hey, you could take me anywhere in the world.
Will.
Absolutely love the work that you guys do. Love the work that you do
Thank you.
in the world
Yeah.
primarily, but
Yeah.
also what you
Thank
do
you.
to tell that story and to bring that digital presence so that more people can learn about it. So all the
Yeah.
best future
Yeah.
success. Look forward to
Yeah.
hearing your podcast. And look forward I'm glad we were able to record your very first podcast here live with Fastr podcast series. Look forward to your podcasts. You record, I'll reciprocate.
Yeah.
You ever want your de facto CTO to sit in on
Yeah.
for no damn reason, I'll show up for that.
Oh no, it's 100%. No, it was always meant to be like this, that after these 3 years of, our companies have both evolved a lot, together in a lot of ways, us keeping up with you and yeah, no, it was inevitable that we were going to be doing our first podcast together.
Thank you
Yep.
so much for joining
Thanks,
us.
brother. That was awesome.
Talk
Appreciate it. Thank you.